All right.
Action.
Action. This is the hit factor. That was really, dude, I was like watching my face on the screen. That was scary. That was kind of scary. We are the hit factor though. And our podcast is back from Missouri.
Yeah.
I can't say a whole lot about Missouri other than we had fun at the match and it was a good match. So this was our, well, I won't say it's our first match of the year. It was Jeff's and I's first match of the year. Sasquatch he's always shooting matches, so he doesn't ever have first matches of the year. He's just always shooting.
Yeah.
But we also worked the match, which was awesome and fun. Before we get into that, what do you guys got on tap for tonight?
Like, what are we drinking, or like?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I've started with some early times.
Nice.
To warm up the palate.
Nice.
Yeah, and then I was gonna drink some of my new bourbon that we got in Missouri.
Yeah, so if you're in Springfield, there's a liquor store called Macadoodles, and that's a pretty legit store. Like for this time of year, they had some pretty good bottles and mostly good prices on stuff. I am actually having a pour from that I got there, which is Maker's Mark, which normally like people are like, oh, just Maker's Mark, but this is the important one. Is Maker's Mark cask 46 cask strength. So it's 110 proof. I can't remember what their normal 46 is. I think it's around 90, but I don't remember. But a little bit hard to find bottle, and it's pretty good. It's a wheated bourbon, so that means for it to be bourbon, the main grain has to be corn, over 50% corn. And normally rye is going to be your second most dominant grain in it. In a wheated bourbon, wheat is the second most dominant, and I don't know what the percentage is for makers, but so you call that a wheated bourbon, and those usually get you a little bit sweeter, a little bit more kind of like red fruits and things like that. And this one's good, so I enjoy it.
Nice. Jared, you drinking anything other than water?
I don't even have water. I have an empty coffee cup from this morning that I left in here.
Oh my gosh. Well, you drank enough in Missouri, so.
I had a couple beers.
Oh my gosh.
Something like that.
Anyway, yeah, that's what I got going. So.
Yeah. So. Yeah, let's do like match, like just personal match. We'll talk about the RO stuff after this, but first we'll talk about like your just personal match and whatnot. Jeff.
Okay. Did you say me? Me go first?
Yeah. Yeah, Jeff, you're first.
I mean, it was a match. I mean, I don't have a ton to say. It was a good warm up match, I guess. I had changed a couple things that I was reflecting on this morning, and I was like, that was probably a poor decision. One of the things, I mean, some people probably didn't even notice. Some people may have noticed. I had to strip mags a couple times at this match from my gun. That was because I switched lowers. I went from like my practice dry fire lower because I like the way it filled out my palm more. The downside is it doesn't drop mags as well. So I did that, and that was a poor decision. So unless I can get it to drop mags as good as my other lower, then I'll go back to that one, even though it doesn't fill out my hand quite as good.
Did you know that it didn't drop mags all that well?
I did, but it had been working really good. But I haven't really live fired, so
yeah,
I didn't really. Yeah, it's just one of those things like, oh, well, it worked in practice, but you don't really get the real world application to like really see how things are working, right?
Yeah, and if
So
you're dry firing with mags that have like ammo in it, that'll drop way better than when you run it to
yeah,
slide lock.
yeah. So that was one thing, and then I have new sights on my gun, so that was another thing that was different at this match, which I like them. They look good. So that there was nothing poor there. The sights they were crispy. They were good. Um, but yeah, it was a good match. It was some long shots, a lot of close shots, a lot of stuff like the close fast stuff. I think anybody that watches me shoot close fast stuff is probably very underwhelmed. Like, dude, I'm so bad at close fast stuff. It's crazy. I have the most I have the slowest finger of anybody I know. So yeah, I didn't do too great on that. So
I
something I
mean,
need to work
JJ
on.
makes it work. Like JJ basically never, even in open, basically never breaks a 20 split. I don't think, and he makes it work
Does he not?
in that game. No, he does
Hmm.
not. If you watch any of JJ's videos, he doesn't split hard. I mean, even on that close fast stuff, a slow trigger finger like you can make work. You just have to speed up your transitions, which shooting slower splits allows faster transitions. Um, I know that doesn't seem like it should be the case, but usually you can transition a little bit quicker when your splits are a little bit slower.
Is it?
Video's not as cool, but
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I agree with that at all. But
people
point
way
is,
people way overvalue split speed too. Like on a 32 round course of fire, if you split the gun in 0.15 instead of 0.2, it's literally zero point 0.8 seconds. It's not even a full second to be 25% faster. I mean,
right?
as long as your splits aren't like, you know, half a second apiece, it doesn't matter.
That's a good point. But being someone who always has a slow trigger finger, it doesn't feel great. It, it makes me not feel great about my shooting, when I just can't freaking pull the trigger very quickly. Um, but it was fine. I think that was the main thing, is that it was kind of a trial run trial run for the year. I would have liked to do better still, right? Like I don't. Yeah, I came in third in production behind Carl. Did we? Is it Kleitz? Sites?
I thought it's sights. I might be wrong.
Well, it's
See?
Kleitz. Kleitz. There's an L in there.
Sights? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. I thought it was
Carl
sights.
Kleitz, which he finished right behind Jared and I last year, like real close. I remember that. So,
Yeah,
and I
he's
probably
very
met him
good.
at this match since we worked the match, but I still can't remember his face. Um, so sorry, Carl. But he did really good. He beat me, and then Jared beat me, put the whooping on me. So yeah, but it was good. It was fun. I had a lot of fun, dude. Going to going bourbon hunting with Jeremy, and then we did the live show, and that was fun. We ate Mexican food 2 different times.
Two different
Uh,
restaurants.
yeah,
the
2 different
first one wasn't
restaurants.
so great.
I was not
No, the
impressed with
first
that.
one wasn't very good, but that was okay.
But
I
Old
was
Mexico in Springfield is excellent.
Yeah, it's actually Caesar's Old Mexico.
Yeah,
It was worth
Yeah,
the wait. It took an hour to get in there,
yeah, it
but it
did.
was worth it.
It was good. I enjoyed it. It was really freaking loud in there, though. Like, wow, loud. I don't know if most people notice that, but I definitely
was
noticed stuff like that.
was that loud because Jared and Camden were loud, or was like the whole restaurant loud?
Well, it was loud, and then but you could still hear Jared like crispy clear over everybody. So
It's usually the case.
yeah, it was like I can't hear the person right across the table from me, but I can hear Jared like you know three seats down talking to Matt. Uh, yeah, it was a great match. I had a great time working the match, handing out hats. Thank you for everybody that participated. in doing the guessing the time and talking and making it fun. So it was a great time. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Sasquatch,
Okay.
how was your
So
match?
I shot fairly well. I mean, there wasn't too much I could complain on my own shooting. Probably the only like big takeaway and something, and it's really just because I haven't been training on it probably this year, is I didn't shoot zebras very well. I think I shot like 5 rounds into the right side of zebras or skunks, depending
Oh
on where
yeah.
you're at in the country. I mean, I made most of them up, but I think I picked up a mic on one of those. Maybe I had a second mic on. I don't remember if I had 2 or 1, but I certainly did not shoot those as well as I should have. But I mean, overall, I shot fairly well. Like the speed, I think, was appropriate.
Mhm.
No, accuracy was good. I shot 91% of the points. I was plenty fast on the fast stuff, and yeah, didn't have a ton of makeup shots on steel. Actually, I had more makeup shots on paper than I did on steel. Probably more on skunks than I did on steel. But
Yeah.
I was pretty happy with my shooting. I mean, especially this early in the season.
So you have like
Honestly,
any takeaways?
No, I mean the takeaway is like I definitely need to do some work on skunks, but I just need to train on those. But otherwise, keep doing what I'm doing. I haven't really been training hard yet this year. I trained up a little bit for Caribbean Open when I shot it, but otherwise I haven't. Outside of shooting like local matches and my Tuesday night matches, I haven't been shooting much, which I think in some ways probably helps because there's a certain level that that exists between like just being able to shoot freely because you really don't know and being able to like be super trained up and shoot there. So I think if you're like just a little bit trained up, you probably don't shoot as well as if you're just kind of just shooting.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely some freedom in not being like 100% prepared. Like it's almost like you can take some stress off of yourself. Or some people can. For that works for some people. Some people it doesn't. Some people it ratchets up the stress. I don't think that works all that great for me, but for some people that works. Uh,
yeah.
and it's almost like I think of Phil Strader when I think of that. Like I think Phil Strader shoots 100% free because he's like never prepared, but he has a pretty good basic skill set that he can obviously. I mean, he's basically in the top 10 of every nationals that he competes in,
Yep.
and I think he can just kind of let it hang out there and not stress a whole lot about his shooting, and it works for him.
Yeah. This like me and Jared shooting against each other at this match, it reminded me a lot of how last year this match went. The only difference was Jared didn't have like the the real bad stage, right? Like you got goof ups, but he didn't have that stage, which was what the second or third stage of last year, which was the stupid zebra target one. It was like 20 or 30 yards, whatever they were. Anyway, but that stage was what gave me the leg up on Jared last year. But if you'll remember, if you listen to that episode, I even said in that episode, Jared outshot me all day long. And it was the same here. He outshot me all day long. He just didn't have the big goof up. So
Yeah, yeah. Jeff. I mean, Jeff didn't say this, but like Jeff struggled with points down. I mean, too many Charlies.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
he wasn't like you weren't throwing like tons of. I think you only had like 3 deltas or something like that. Like it wasn't like a ton of deltas, and
yeah,
the miss count wasn't super high except for one stage that bit me and you. Me and you got bit by the mics on the exact same stage, uh,
yeah,
but but really not like you're throwing mics over. It's just sloppy enough in minor, uh, that
yeah.
and not fast enough to overcome those points down to drop a fair bit.
Right, yeah. It's like if only I was faster and shot better points, right?
Right.
Me too.
All right, Jeremy, let's hear it. Tell us about yours.
I feel a lot better coming out of this match than I did this match last year. Um, I mean, I got beat, freaking Scott Brown, little Peckerwood. Uh, he got me
Pretty
by
sure he's
3.
pretty sure he's like 12 years old.
Yeah, he looks like it. I think he's actually like,
Oh,
isn't he like 16?
jeez.
I think he just turned 16.
Yeah. Um, I mean, obviously he's a good shooter. His brother won limited, I think. He won single stack.
Yeah.
So they're obviously both really good. And he had, I mean, he didn't have he told me after the match, he's like, the stuff that he shot well, like he said he shot really, really well. And then the stuff that he shot bad. Um, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it was enough. He got me by, Jeff corrected me. I told Jeff he got me by 3 points, and Jeff said no, it was 3.97, so basically 4 points.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say he got me by 3 points, but Jeff is gonna say that it was 4 points. So
I mean, you don't want to rob the kid of his lead, man.
dude, I'm old man. Like I'm
I mean,
100% gonna rob him.
he's probably on top of the world because he crushed your soul.
He seemed pretty happy. We all
I
went
mean,
to.
yeah. I mean, I know how happy I was when I beat you for the first time. It's a good feeling.
Is
Me,
it? I didn't
me, and,
realize it was. I didn't realize that was a thing. But
Oh yeah, for sure.
me,
that's
Matt, and the Browns all went to Brahms to celebrate.
Mm,
Really, we just went to get ice cream, but we're gonna say it was celebrating.
yeah,
that's awesome. Good. And Brahms
that
is
was a
amazing.
cool story.
That was a really great. That was a really great
Poking
story,
fun
Jared.
at you.
That was a great story. But like this was my first match since. Well, it's my first match since Jeff tried to kill me last year at Area 3. So,
Yeah.
first match I've shot since Bighorn in June of last year. So, like, I definitely had a bunch of rust to knock off, but also had a bunch of, like, demons to kind of, like, exercise because obviously I ended my season short last year because it's like those demons weren't going away last year. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to. I'll put them to bed. And
That's right.
and I wasn't like not a lot of training. I've shot more rounds than Jeff did coming into this, but not a lot. And like the practice session, like right before I left to come, it was like really bad, like just not in control of the gun at all. And it's like I told my wife, I said, if I wasn't working this match, if I wasn't signed up to work this match, I might withdraw. Like I might not go because I was really afraid of like just embarrassing myself. And so luckily, like get there, the first couple stages like went like I didn't have a mic on my first stage, which is that's a good thing for me. Like I stayed I stayed in control, like. And so it started out, not lighting the world on fire, but not just like throwing away tons of points or time. And tried to, it's like, okay, like I knew that like I knew that I was off the pace. And I was like, I need to pick up the pace a little bit, and tried to push. And it that was when that was kind of after lunch, and the wheels fell off for a stage or two. Like there was one stage that they fell off really bad. Like two mics on open targets that were not, the furthest one might have been 15 yards. Like it wasn't like a 30-yard open target where it's like, yeah, you can throw a mic pretty easily. It's like a 15-yard open target. And the other one was like a 10-yard open target. And I had a mic on each one of those. So, but then I was able to reel it back in and kind of got things under control. And was kind of able to go back to some of the fixes that I've had lately with my trigger presses and stuff, that I've seen some good things in practice, and it got kind of better at the end. So I was happy to see that, and that to me that kind of bodes well a little bit in the future. I need to I need to get to where I can push a little bit harder, and that's just a little bit more training. Hopefully, can run a local or two, and more matches, but really just more live fire training to get that. And then also my footwork was pretty rough. I felt like at this match, like it just wasn't great. Um, and so definitely going to be doing spending some more time with footwork stuff. Uh, Jeff and I were actually talking on the way home. Surprise, surprise! I drove Jeff. Actually, hold on, wait. Uh, on the way back, Jeff drove. Uh, he drove
It's
my
true.
car, but he drove
Yeah.
from Springfield to Midwest City, Oklahoma, and he didn't crash us. Like he was able to do it, and I guess it didn't kill him. So
No.
apparently, he is capable of putting forth some effort.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather not do it again, but it wasn't bad.
Jeff figured I did not sleep the night before hardly at all, and so Jeff, I guess he figured putting out the effort was better than dying because I fell asleep driving.
Yeah.
So
But
so
he
Jeff
still
did
wouldn't.
drive back.
He still wouldn't like sleep while I was driving. But
No,
who could blame him for that?
no way was I going to fall asleep while Jeff was driving. But while we were driving back, Jeff and I were talking a little bit, and he said something about I think I asked Jeff like, hey, if you had like 50,000 primers, what would your training look like? He's like, well, I probably couldn't really go to the range anymore. I just shoot more rounds when I do go to the range. And
Yeah.
then he was talking about setting up like targets and fault lines and stuff like that, like in his backyard, because he's got like an acre or something like that, and doing like shooting, like dry firing, but at real targets at real distances rather than just inside. And so I was like, yeah, I could do that. The range that I shoot at is 600 yards from my shop, so I could just go down there and spend a half hour rather than like an hour and a half to shoot. I could go spend a half hour, hang a few targets, and go do a bunch of dry fire, and then I don't have to pick up brass. And you can get a
Yeah.
lot of reps on footwork stuff, on positional setup and things like that, on real
Yeah.
terrain, on real targets, real walls, real fault lines, stuff like that. So that's definitely a takeaway for me coming
Yeah.
forward. That I'm
Even
probably going to do some of that.
even like last season, because I didn't shoot a lot last season. I think I said I shot 8 or 9 thousand rounds, something like that. A lot of times when I would go practice, I would finish shooting, and then I would just like for another 30 minutes, I would just keep running my drills.
Yeah.
Running around everything just with the gun. And I know this is not like a novel idea. I know Joel talks about dry firing on the range and doing stuff. I don't know exactly what kind of stuff he likes to dry fire on the range, but it's not a novel idea. It's just something that I feel like I could probably get a lot more value out of if I did it a bit more intentionally.
Yeah.
Realistically, about the only thing you can't do in dry fire is recoil control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things. The more skills that you string together in a drill, the harder it is to focus in on one thing, or to know what you're doing in each aspect of the game. So if you're stringing together moving, shooting, transitioning, entering, exiting, if you're stringing all these things together, it's really hard to hone any one, right? So I mean, recoil management is just another thing that you're having to throw in there, and sight tracking. I mean, there's a lot going on there when the gun's going off. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of muscles being activated. Your eyes are doing different things. So it it can be like just a gun going off can be very distracting from other stuff that you might be trying to do.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
personally.
and the physical shooting part of it is still the biggest part of our sport.
Yeah.
Like it still boils down to shooting. Like you can move
Yeah.
great, you can reload great, but it still boils down to like, can you hit what you're aiming at quickly? So that I would still contend that that's the biggest part of our sport. But yeah, you can work on everything else dry. Um, so yeah, that's kind of need to get my footwork done and need to work on being able to push. I had a live fire session today that was decent. I mean, it was real simple. Just kind of go back and brush up fundamentals, kind of what I stand and shoot stuff. So that was it was a good session, and so I'm looking forward to training and practicing stuff. And my confidence didn't take a massive hit like it did last year at this match, and then every match after it. So that's good.
I would actually say, well, obviously there were things you weren't happy with in your shooting. I thought you shot very well. Like,
Thank you.
I mean, the stuff that matters a lot. It's easy to be like, oh, I lost the match, but like the stuff that matters a lot, you were doing well. It's as much as it sucks to throw a mic on an open paper. It's a lot easier to do than you ever think about it being.
Oh yeah, like it's. I mean, it's just a. I mean, I had that whole stage. I was not focused on the right thing on my right now. Like where I'm at in my shooting, like it takes a ton of mental focus on the actual just act of shooting, like pulling the trigger and lining the sights up. Like that's where my like none of that stuff is automatic right now. Like that's something that like takes a lot of mental focus, and on that stage, like I didn't trust it to put my focus where it needed to be, and it bit me on the stage that I had two mics on. And like I said, and there were other stuff, overrunning positions, some trigger freeze stuff. Like I mean, that stuff's gonna happen. Like again, not being able to just like really put the hammer down and go, is just part of it, and part of it's just I'm old and kind of slow. Like I've always been kind of slow, so that's part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like Jared said, like the overall was pretty good for where I'm at right now. I'm perfectly fine. Like to me, like this was we can kind of transition into like just talking like the match as a whole, like what we think about the Ozarks. We've gotten lots of questions about like the Ozarks, is it worth going and stuff like that. But like for me, the match of the whole, like this was a great warm up match, so to speak. We obviously we worked the matches ROs, and we're going to talk about that later. But like we shot with the ROs, and so for me, it really felt like a big club match. And that's not a knock at all on Ozarks. Part of that was shooting with the ROs, so like the timers, like you're doing RO scoring duties, like you're doing all of that stuff while you're shooting. And luckily we had a guy. What was his name?
Greg Yin.
Greg Yin, yeah. He ran the clock for us for our squad of ROs. He ran the clock for us all day, and that was awesome. Like that made that experience 10 times better. But so for me, like this, it felt like a large club match. And so like it was like the perfect like first match of the year. Like just kind of get your feet wet, like Jeff was doing, like put your equipment to test, and just put your mental capacity to test and see where you're at, like kind of give you a little bit of direction for the year. Because if you're just training, you never shoot a match, like sometimes it's hard to find what direction, and then you put it in competition, it's like, oh, there's a glaring weakness there, and you can kind of go after that. So that was my kind of sense of the like the match as a whole. Anybody else want to tag onto that at all?
Well, first thing on the matches, I will give Walt credit. I thought he did a great job. I believe this is the first major that he's like put together and ran and everything.
Yep.
So Ozark's been around for a few years now. It was the first time he's ran it that I know of. So he did a good job. Like you said, shooting on staff day is something I haven't done in a while because I haven't worked a match since like 2017, I think, or 2016. I think it's 2017. But it's a good experience to be on the other side of the timer a little bit. And actually, I was thinking about it, on the drive home and stuff. That is something that I'm going to try to work a match next year as well, at least one. Like it's
Yeah.
good. It's good to have the experience from the other side, the other view.
Yeah.
Overall, the joke is the match was always good. It was fun. I had fun or whatever. But I mean, compared to like last year and stuff, I thought the stages were greatly improved. We talked about it a little bit. There was maybe a little more than ideal of like super in your face targets, but overall, the stages were what I would consider a great improvement from the previous year, and some of them were pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Jeff, what did you
Yeah.
think about? Let's talk about stages. What did you think about stages?
Yeah, they were great. I liked them. They, I don't know. I'm really bad at judging like how were the overall stages, man. I mean, I've kind of felt like this match in the past had pretty good stages. Like they had some stages that were ridiculous. Um, but generally, like I remember like pretty stinking good stages at this match, even in the past. So, I mean, it was about the same. Other than this year, I felt like you had mentioned, there was a lot more like point blank type shooting. I felt like there was more of that this year than in the past. I could be wrong, but that's what it felt like. Um, but I've liked the stages at this match in the past, and some of them are very very memorable for me. So
Yeah. So my kind of take on the stages. There were not homogeneous at all as far as like round count. There was good variety. There were short courses, there were medium courses, there were long courses. I couldn't tell you like an exact ratio that they had, but that was good. Like there were some really compact stages. The stage that we worked and I designed was a big, like lots of movement, which was good. Um,
hmm lots of
yeah,
people
there were
said they
just
liked that stage.
I did not get a negative comment on the stage.
It was
So
shit, Jeremy.
I I mean if there was
Worst
a
stage
comment,
I've ever shot.
if there was negative comment, I'd love to hear it.
There,
I
you
didn't
just
I
got
didn't
two.
get one. Um, since we're talking about that stage, I think because I ran the timer for everybody that shot it not on staff day, so I saw everybody's stage plan, and nobody shot that stage the same way I did. I was the only person who shot it like that. But I think I had one of the fastest iron sight times on that stage. But it
Yeah.
was, I mean, it was cool because I shot it that way because I only had 8 rounds in the gun, and it's like, and there were Walt did a really good job. I designed it, but Walt set it up. So there can be a huge gap between what the stage designer puts down on paper and what the person that puts it on the ground does with it. Like they can, that's really where the magic happens. And Walt did an excellent job putting down on the ground what I had kind of put on paper, and so he
Yeah.
did a great job with that. Yeah, the only thing that I would say like just there was good variety. Like there was distance shooting, there were partials, there was open hosing. There were like Jared said, a few too many kind of that point blank. Just there were just a few too many. It wasn't a hoser match. Like it wasn't like the whole match was a hoser match. It wasn't that at all. There were just a few too many of those. They had one bay where they had two stages that you shot back to back that were on the same, like the exact same stage, and then you had to like like one was all steel, and then one it was all paper,
Yeah.
and you had to pull target stands between that, and
Yeah.
that was a little bit problematic from a time management. I think there were some backups there that were a
Well,
little bit problematic.
I think even more than the time management. I think at a major, you should not have stages where you're pulling targets and setting them on the ground, and shooting around them. I mean, I feel like you shouldn't. It leaves too much room for human error and to mess up the competitive equity on the stage, in my opinion.
Well, 10 or 11 stages is plenty of stages for a level 2 as well. It's not a big deal that it doesn't have 12 in it. If your bay count doesn't allow it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, the pulling the targets out, like you could have done that state. You could have done something similar where you didn't have to pull the targets out of the stands, and you could have had kind of two separate stages on the same stage. You could have two separate stages where you don't pull the targets, and I think that could have been better. Other way to do that is you basically run the same stage, but you have a shooting area that's kind of close to the targets, because that was like a long skinny bay. You have shooting area that's close to the targets, and then you can move that shoot. You can have another shooting area that's 10 yards further back, which then creates different angles, different stuff, and so you can put two stages if you need to feel the need to put two stages on a bay like that. There's ways to do it, and I think that Walt probably, I'm guessing that was already in Walt's notes. Like he first time doing a level 2 match. I'm guessing he probably already knew about that. The only other thing I would like to see, this is just personal preference, I would have loved to have seen a strong hand weekend stage, standard stage. They had a one per. They had a stage that was one shot per, which I love seeing that. I think he could have put a 3-shot per on one of the other stages. Actually, the stage that was next to the 1-shot per, he could have made that like a 3-shot per type thing, those are always kind of neat. And then I would have loved to have seen a strong hand weekend, even in like a standards. USPSA weekend has to be in a standards format. Other people may not feel that same way about that. Like they may not like seeing standards. They may feel that's kind of a waste of a stage, but I like to see it.
I'm pretty indifferent to standards, but I certainly would like to have seen something strong hand or weak hand or a combination of both.
Yeah.
I think it's important to at least test strong hand, if nothing else.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, other than like target placement and stage design, there's a lot of things in USPSA you can play with to make a match interesting, as far as start positions, draw positions, strong hand, weak hand, stuff like that, dictating different things. So I like seeing those things. I am kind of on the side, I know y'all aren't, but I kind of like gimmicky matches. I like stuff where there's like more strong hand, weak hand, more weird start positions. But I kind of feel like those things give the opportunity for someone who just like is really well rounded to kind of get a little further ahead or make up some ground. Just because it's kind of abnormal, right? Like not everybody even shoots weak hand. So if someone actually trains it a little bit, they're going to be able to like pick up quite a few points on a weekend stage generally.
Oh.
So that's just kind of how I feel about it. I like the gimmicky stuff. That's just me. I know there's not many people that actually feel that way.
Like one thing I think we lack in USPSA is the ability to have like larger stages and stages that require movement, like real movement, strong hand and weak hand. Right. So that's one area of like IPSC shines is you can have an 18 round all weekend stage, like you're loading again.
Yeah.
Or all strong hand with multiple positions. And I think that is an interesting skill of its own. It's a lot different than stuff we do, and I wish that our rule book allowed that.
Yeah, I mean the only way we can force it strong hand basically by we can kind of force it by having somebody carry something. And I'm actually okay with that. Like you have to place this has to be placed from here to a different part of the stage. And then so you kind of get the option. Do I just run a run? Do I shoot the stage holding that in my left hand and shoot all strong hand, or do I run? And even then you can write it in the stage briefing that like it can't be like you have to harry it. Like I'm actually okay with that. Like that, if that's a gimmick that like Jeff's talking about, other people, like I'm okay with that because it's how a stage designer can force people to shoot strong hand on a field course. So that I'm okay with. Now making it like a 50-pound weight, that's not really equal for a strong person like Jeff and like somebody like me who can barely pick up 50 pounds. Like I don't
So
want to
weak.
carry something like that. But yeah, like I think there's some options, and Jarrett, I feel like you want to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention probably like I don't mind the props like that force you to do strong hand or something. The only thing I don't like about it is there's no really good way to like reload with it. So generally those stages you end up shooting what you need to save a lot of extra movement strong hands and then dump the object so you can load the gun and shoot, because it's not feasible to set it on the ground or set it on a barrel, load your gun and pick it back up. It's just too slow.
Yeah, and
So
I mean, to me, I kind of like that because it forces you to shoot strong hand for part of the stage, and then you shoot freestyle the rest of it. Which it incorporates that into a stage rather than just being all strong hand only. Um, that's just me. It can be over the top, obviously, but
yeah, I was just referring to like how that's one change I like in the IPSC rule set though, is that you could have a straight
yeah,
all strong hand stage that you're going to be loading the gun on and stuff. That
yeah.
I wouldn't
I'd
mind
be
if that was
happy
available.
if they adopted that. I would be quite happy.
Yeah.
And none of this is to none of this is to really be critical of Ozarks, the match there. Like I thought it was a good match. I thought it was they were good stages, good match. It's just feedback, not at all like to say hey they had bad stages or gimmicky stages at all.
Yeah.
They didn't. They had good stages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought they were good.
They did a good job.
Yeah. We got a couple questions from the Discord about this match specifically. So we go ahead and field those if y'all are up for it.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, knock them out.
Okay, so first one was okay. The first one was well, I asked if anybody had questions about the match. He said, "Is the match worth a drive 10 plus hours, or could it be headed that way?"
So I'm gonna say unlikely that I would ever drive 10 hours for any match outside of nationals. So take that with where my view is at. Like I would probably not drive 10 hours for any section match or level 2 match.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I drove
Jeremy?
like 8.5 hours to get there, so like another hour and a half, like
Right.
not a
But
big deal.
but if you like weren't working the match or going with me and Jared or anything like that, and you were just picking matches to go to, do you feel like this match had the value to make you drive 10 hours to?
For like this time of year, like it's hard to find decent matches in March. Like there's not a lot of matches happening in March, and so given that I have nationals in May, so this gives me I had a level 2 here in March. I'll have Bighorn in April, and then single stack nationals in May. 100% it would have been worth a 10-hour drive for that. Like that would not have been a problem. Like the match was good enough. We only know from what as far as how the match ran. Like we can't really comment on it because we were stuck on our stage. But our stage ran well, so like I mean, we didn't get backed up. We did once for a popper calibration, and it was like we called for popper calibration, and there were like 4 other people on the radio also all calling for popper calibrations. So we had to wait a little bit, and so we got a little backed up for that. But otherwise, the stage ran well. So, and I think I think the match ran fairly well.
And what type of popper was it that kept screwing people up?
It was actually we only had 2 calibrations. One was on a mini popper, one was on a big popper.
Right.
They were both edge hits.
You know.
Yeah. They were legit. We actually we had 4 poppers on our stage.
No,
and
we
they
had
all
6.
6.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
They
had
all
5
worked.
big ones, 1 mini.
Yeah, they worked fantastic all day long. It was awesome.
We should
No.
note that Jeff thought there were only 4 because Jeff sat down while we ran shooters all day, and
That's
Jeremy
bullshit,
got to
You-
That's
Jeremy got to
bullshit.
set up targets.
You,
set up.
Hey, everybody
steel
that
targets all day.
came to this match knows I did not sit down. The
You
whole
remember that?
time.
You remember that time I wanted to sit down on my stool that I brought? Do you have a stool just like it? And I had to use a
Yeah.
5-gallon bucket because somebody else was sitting on my stool.
Yeah, I mean, all I know
remember
is like
that.
every time, because I was like, checking, making sure the swinger at the back of the stage was set up every time, pacing those targets. Every time I walked back to the stage, Jeff was sitting down. That's all I know.
Well, you know why? Do you know why?
So
Because
more
I had already scored targets and set up steel and was back calculating people's score on how close their time was to their predictions. So damn fast. That's why.
I love it because Jeff now has a reputation as just being this lazy son of a gun, and it's well earned. Like, he's earned it. But I'm glad that reputation is being spread far and wide.
Yeah, it is. Don't worry.
Yes. One
I
thing
don't
back to the listener question that we got way
I
off
kinda
topic
care.
on there. Where you talked about driving 8.5 hours to the match, and I said I wouldn't drive 10 hours to a match. I think it's also going to be very dependent on like where you're from and where you're coming from. Because for me, there's a ton of like level 2 matches and level 3 matches within 5 hours. For you, you're driving 6+ hours to basically anything you shoot. That's a major.
Yeah.
So it is very area dependent as well.
The other question that the same person asked was why Jared got so mad about single action only on the live show.
So I am heavily against doing any more rule changes because I think a
Oh,
lot
jeez. Oh, stop. No, we
a
don't.
lot of
no.
our problems are from changing the rules constantly, and then that's the end of that discussion.
Yeah.
I mean that's basically what you said in the live show. Right?
Yeah, we don't need to go back to that.
No, we're not
It
going
was a
back
question.
It was a good question. He was mad. He had a couple beers, and those couple beers were pitchers of beers, and so like that may have influenced his mood a little bit. I think at that point.
On top of that, though, I mean Jeremy has the ability to bring out the worst in people, so he was also working. He was working Jared over.
it was a give and take for sure. That was if you missed out on the live show. I don't know if it was entertaining for people, but
I imagine it was
interesting.
very cringe, honestly. I think I watched like the first 10 minutes afterwards, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I can make it through this thing. It wasn't great, but it is up for you to go see. Should you like to do that? I don't really encourage it, but it's there. Next question on the match. Thoughts on plate racks at majors? Because we did have a stage that had a double plate rack.
There were 3 plate racks of this match.
Yeah. And two of them were in one stage.
Yeah.
I would personally heavily discourage the use of plate racks at all, though. It seems like they cause a lot of issues. They end up causing a lot of reshoots because you can't calibrate them or anything. Plates can bounce back. Other plates can fall when you shoot them, so it's something else that has to be paid close attention to. And it's just not an interesting target. They're all basically the same. Like, it's always like 6 plates that are 8-inch plates that are 6 inches apart or whatever. It's a very, generally speaking, clubs have a very standard plate rack, like the Bianchi plates. I just don't find them overly interesting and would typically prefer they not be used in matches.
I mean, to me, from a shooting challenge standpoint, like, I think they're cool, like because they kind of get people wigged out. Like, you see a plate rack, you see 6, and it's like you want to be that person that goes and goes ting 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 ting, and just like knock them all 6 down. Really like, and so people often like screw up from that point. I raise my hand because like they normally are not my friend, not my favorite. But Jared is right from an ROing standpoint, from a scoring standpoint, from a match flow standpoint. They're a nightmare. Um, they're non-calibratable. Like even if you have ones that you can adjust per the rule book, unless they've changed it, which they could have, but unless they've changed it, they all plate racks are considered non-calibratable. And so if a plate falls down uh, without being shot, then it's automatic reshoot. Like there is no, or if a plate does, or if a plate gets hit and doesn't go down, is automatic reshoot. Like that's again, maybe they've changed it because there are plate racks now that are calibratable, but in the past that was the rule, that plate racks automatic reshoot. And yeah, you will see, like, it's really hard for an RO who's trying to watch a gun, watch for 180 calls, watch for finger on the trigger, watching for foot faults, watching all that they've got to then watch impacts on plates to make sure that a plate doesn't fall down incidentally because a plate was hit next to it. Like it's just a scoring nightmare. And so I think level ones, they're fine. It's just a little bit lax there. Like they're fine for that. Level twos, I would rather not see them. I think from like they're just kind of, you're not doing yourself any favor by putting them in.
Yeah, and though at this match when we shot it, I didn't see any issues. Like I don't remember anybody having issues. I do still agree with everything that y'all just said. I have seen a lot of issues at other matches with plate racks. They plates go down when they're not supposed to. Plates don't go down. Plates pop back up. Plates break. I've seen them break, and then you're like scrambling for parts to try to repair a plate rack because you can't just throw it out. And you can't just replace it, right? Because it's just way too big. Like if you had a bad popper or something that broke, you can't just throw in a new popper. You actually have to like find the parts and repair the plate rack. So there's just a lot that can go wrong. So though we didn't have any issues when we shot it, I do agree.
Yeah. And they had high quality, like the plate racks that they have are super high quality. Like they're really good. They're really robust. But still, I would still personally would discourage match directors from using them.
Yeah. Yep. Mr. C-Class Legend has chimed in here.
All right, last question.
I would like to know what you guys thought about the setup, initial RO shooting day. Do you think anything stupid? Jeremy.
Do I think anything stupid?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you ask most people, they would probably think I think stupid stuff all the time. So, I don't know.
Do you think that anything is stupid?
At the match?
Just in general. It was a jab at Jared.
Oh, now it's, wow. I can't believe I missed that.
I was wondering how
I mean,
how long it would take you.
I really loved how long you went on there, though. That was beautiful.
Yeah. You got me, Camden. Nice job. What was the question again? Well, how was it shooting with ROs? Like, was that kind of the gist of it?
Yeah. What did you think about the setup initial RO shooting day? Yeah, just like how everything was organized, right? With like match day and RO staff day, and then shooting it and everything.
I thought the shooting with the ROs went better than it could have. Like, it did not feel like we were guinea pigs on every stage. Right? Like, it didn't feel like we were shooting it and then now the stage has to get changed because we figured out where the problems were. Right? Like, I did not feel like that. And I think that's a positive. That's a big positive for the match director and the setup crew, that they had the stages pretty well ready to go. The other thing that they had that was really, really good, they have a few loads of like pea gravel kind of in different places throughout that range. And then like, cause they had rain a few days before. And so there were wet spots but on our stage, like our starting area, like we had a guy almost fall and it was like, hey, this is going to get muddy. And so we called and they brought us a couple buckets of pea gravel. And we were able to really maintain especially the starting area, but maintain the stage and stuff using that. And we were able to do that some like during the RO shooting, to keep our bays kind of nice and clean. And so that to me, I'm now thinking if was an RO at a major match, I want at least a 5-gallon bucket of pea gravel on my stage to start the match, so that I can just as spots get worn in, get real deep, I can fix that myself between squads, between shooters, and keep my stage nice and clean the whole time.
Well, and we use, just to be clear, we used the pea gravel to help, like where the stage was grass and the grass got beat up and it was just slick mud. We put a little pea gravel down just to give some traction. So
yeah,
which outside of the one guy who slipped on the start there, I didn't see anybody else come close to falling that I can recall.
No,
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered C-Class Legends.
Kind of feel like we overall covered most of his questions earlier.
Yeah, I mean, we hit most of that in other questions there. There's another question here about a swinger, but we can save that because I don't even know what this thing is. So
yeah, I don't think that has to do with Missouri.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys have observations as being an RO? Like, did y'all learn anything? Did you observe anything from shooters? What did you guys think about that?
So I'll go first. I don't really recall anything that was like I learned this or anything, but I think it's invaluable to be on the other side of the timer of the tablet at a major. It's a good way to give a little bit back, but it's also a good reminder of how much work the ROs are putting in when we show up to matches. Like, it's not easy. I mean,
yeah,
me and you were on our feet all day. I mean, you might get to sit down for a few seconds here and there, but overall, it's like you're standing up, you're paying attention, and you got to be pretty focused on what's going on. And it's important to, be involved in that side of stuff too, especially not just be all take, but be a little bit of give too.
Yeah. What about you, Jeff?
I mean, I don't know. Other than what Jared said, I think probably the most noticeable thing was right at the beginning, those first couple stages. There was a bit of it was a little hectic, trying to figure out our groove, and then on top of that, we were trying to get everybody's time predictions for the stage, and then trying to figure out how we were going to do all that, right? We're going to write down their times and then do the math later, and then we had to write down everybody's name for the stage so that we could do that first, or for each squad, right? So it was a little hectic there for half a squad. We were just kind of trying to figure out what our system was. But once we got rolling, we did a good job. I felt like we did fine, and there wasn't many hiccups other than the calibration calls. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really learn anything super novel. I didn't feel like. It's not like I don't ever run people in stages and RO and stuff.
Yeah,
just not the majors.
So I mean, yeah, and Jeff's right. I mean, I've picked on Jeff tonight, but the truth is, we got it. I was running the clock, Sasquatch was running the iPad, and Jeff was running the. I mean, he was helping score some targets, and then he was running our hat giveaway that we were doing every stage, and doing the printouts on the scores and stuff, the paper backups. And the truth is, like, after about a half squad, it was kind of like, hey, Jared, you watch this, and hey, I'll watch this, and then I'll score this, then you score this, and then like, and after it took about 6 shooters, and we had that down, and it was kind of like, yeah, we could switch. Like, I could go run the iPad, and somebody else could run the timer or whatever. But it was like it was working. I thought it was working really well and efficiently, and so it was like there's no need to screw that up at this point.
Yeah, we were turning squads in under 30 minutes. Like, and that was a big stage with a lot of resetting. So I thought our
Yeah,
system after about 4 or 5 shooters in, we kind of figured out what was working. I think our system worked really well. I don't think we could have done it much better as far as how we were scoring and running the stage.
yeah, and like, I mean, as ROs, like, we were helping tape and reset, and I think that's pretty big. I think shooters kind of, they notice that hey, the RO's not just like scoring then going and sitting down, like they're trying to help move this along. And I think as ROs, that's a little bit part of an RO's job too. And I can, again, we RO'd for one day. It wasn't like a 4-day nationals where you're doing
Yeah.
that. So I can understand that. So I had since I was running the timer, like, I got a little bit more like close look at the shooters and stuff. I had to DQ one person that broke 180. I felt really bad. The dude took it like, he took it better than like you could have ever. He was like, man, like, this was probably, I think, his like 6th or 7th stage. He was like, you know what, like, it's something I need to work on, like, and like, this was kind of a good, like, it's a good time of the day. Like, I got to shoot quite a bit, but I still have like half my ammo, so I didn't waste that. If I got DQ'd on the last stage, I wouldn't have any ammo to take home, and that'd be kind of. He's like, so he was just like all smiles, and it's like, man, I feel bad, but you did break the 180. So I had that one DQ. There was one other guy that I missed a 180 call on. And that one, actually, he should have been DQ'd. I missed it. I saw his hand. I didn't see his gun, so I didn't call it. But otherwise, we didn't have any 180s. But I will say, like, I can understand how, like, there's this sense that, like, it's like the shooter versus the RO, like, it's the RO versus shooter, and from a RO standpoint, you can basically do nothing but take things away from shooters, right? Like, when you're calling scores, I mean, yes, they earned it, but when you're calling mics, when you're like an edge hit that's not there, or like perf hits, and it's like, yeah, that's not there, or if you're checking for, like, all you're doing, like, as you're running the clock, is looking for the shooter to screw up, right? Like, you're looking for them to their finger on the trigger while they're moving, or breaking the 180, or an AD that goes off. Like, you're looking for that stuff. And like, if you were a career RO, it would be really easy to end up in this adversarial position. It's me versus the shooter. I see how that happens.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But the other side, kind of in that though, we had 2 or 3 people where me and you discussed. It's like, was that a full fault or not? Because the way that stage was coming in, there were several people. It's like, I wasn't sure, you weren't sure, so therefore it's not a full fault. And then we also we talked about it whenever the one gentleman you had to DQ. Like, I told you, I was not surprised when you called it, because I could tell by his body position that he was likely breaking 180.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see the gun because I was on the other side.
Right.
But I'm like, I'm pretty sure he was breaking 180, but I can't tell. I can't make the call.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's pressure on that, like, on that 180, because like, there's very much a sense of, hey, I'm calling this, and all of the squad behind me is watching this, and either they're like, if you don't call it, either they're pissed because, like, somebody just kind of pointed a gun kind of in their direction, and you didn't stop them for it, or they're pissed because, hey, what you saw was like a bad call, and you just DQ'd their buddy, right? Like, and so like that's one that's I mean, it's just tricky.
Yeah, there was on that one, the one that you say you missed, the guy that swung the gun behind him.
Yeah.
There was a definite crowd reaction to that movement.
Yeah,
for sure.
Another thing too that came up, like I was talking to you about it. One gentleman was shooting PCC the way he ran with his gun. I commented to you like privately. It's like I don't like the way he's running with that gun. And somebody in the crowd, piped up that it's, oh, you can do that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't disagree with it. I just think the way you because he was holding it muzzle up basically by the handguard. I'm like, running with it that way is opening yourself up to a lot of risk. So it brings up the good point of two of don't take unnecessary risk on that because, like John Husbick said on our squad, who ROs a lot of matches, there's no arbing a DQ. It's a DQ. You're done.
Yep.
And so, I mean, it is. If the RO believes you broke 180, your match is over. So there's no reason to take unnecessary risk on that, which is basically what I was getting at to you when we were talking about it.
Yeah, so that brings up another one of my observations. We had a movement that was most people had a big like right to left movement that was you were moving right along the 180 line, and there was a target to your left that was close to that 180. So a tricky spot for a right-handed shooter, tricky movement for a right-handed shooter. 95% of the shooters were really good. There are some shooters out there which I mean, I know where the training the idea came from, and I understand why they do it, but like they really want to pump the gun really hard while they're running, um, and that's fine. But you guys that are doing that, like y'all need to be aware that if you're making that right to left movement and you're pumping that gun right on that 180, you are going to run into an RO that will DQ you, and they will be justified to do it. The only reason why you guys didn't get DQ'd on my stage is that it was happening so quick because your muzzle was right on the 180 and you were waving it around and you had no idea where that muzzle was at, that it was so quick that I couldn't make the call because I was where I was at positioning. Like I'm not going to stand on that one. I'm not going to be the RO that stands right on the 180 line and let people point there. Like I'm not going to do that. But if you're going to run and pump the gun that hard, you should probably consider changing the angle of that muzzle to be more downrange. Don't give the RO an excuse to send you home because there were probably 5 or 6 of you guys that like to run like that. That an RO could have DQ'd you, and they probably would have they could have been fairly justified in doing so. So that's my observation for those guys. There wasn't many of them. I would say 99% of the shooters were really good about getting their finger outside of the trigger guard when they were moving. That was I had one spot in the stage where I could see that really well, so I was watching for it. The one thing like this is just like a shooting recommendation that I would say like was probably I could say this for probably about half of the shooters. We had a position that was a bit of a lean on your left side, not really much of a lean, and at least half of the shooters got over there. They put all their weight on their left foot and just had their right toe on the ground. That was it, and they're shooting at like an array of 3 poppers at 20 yards doing that, and like this is just my observation. What I would recommend: get your weight lowered and get a more stable position in that. Like I do it like that's something like I see in my videos and like it's like, hey, I need to fix that because I'll notice it in dry fire sometimes, but lots of you guys are doing that, and I think you could benefit greatly from maybe paying attention and getting your weight a little bit lower to where you've got a little bit more equal distribution of your weight in that position.
That makes that shooting twice as hard.
Yeah,
on those poppers, and it makes you way slower trying to move out of there.
Yeah, because you've got to get all 100% of your weight transferred back to your other foot to start moving again. Yeah. I think those are all my observations, kind of as an RO. It was kind of fascinating to see just kind of trends throughout the day that we could watch and observe. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed ROing. I don't want to do it like I don't want to be a traveling RO. Like that's not something I wanted to do. But yeah, for a match like this, I thought it was fun. People seem to buy in mostly to the hats. It's the first time I've ever heard somebody wish that they had a slower time because they were they had guessed like 33 seconds and they were like 30 seconds. Like, dadgummit, I should have shot some more rounds at that swinger down there to get a slower time to try to win a hat. But I thought that went pretty well.
Two interesting outcomes of that. A lot of people know who Brixie is. Brixie Nelson, is that his last name?
Yeah.
Yeah, him and his dad both guessed within 900ths of their time on the same stage together. So they tied, and we gave them both a hat. Yeah, freaking crazy, right? 900ths. And then them being, father and son.
Right,
freaking
yeah.
Crazy. And then on another stage, or another squad, a lady, I don't remember her name, but she guessed her
it's
time.
Melissa, but I don't remember what her last name is.
Yeah, she guessed her time exactly. Yeah.
The best part of that was that she was the first shooter. So
right,
everybody else was just like, all right, well.
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't even write down everybody else's time unless they hit zero, unless they guessed their exact time, and nobody did. So
yeah, there's one guy in that squad that I felt bad for because he guessed his time within 0.04 seconds.
Right, yeah.
Because
400s, and he still didn't get it.
Yeah, I felt a little bad for that guy. Not enough to give him a hat. Like, hey, rules are rules, but I felt a little bad.
Yeah, pretty interesting outcomes there.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
A lot of fun. So yeah, kind of like Jared said, I may try to work on another match like next year. Beginning of the year, an introductory match, a match to go to, test out some new equipment, get the match fee paid for, get travel paid for. It was a pleasant experience. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think Walt sent out an email. He's looking at moving the match to April next year rather than March. It was a little chilly, especially first thing in the morning. It wasn't like if you're outside just doing just regular stuff, like it wasn't like super cold, but it was just cold enough like to try to shoot that it was like a little tough to feel your trigger. You're over bundled just to try to get warm so that whenever you go to shoot, like your hands would be warm enough to function as best as possible. But I think they're going to try to move it to April so that things will be. That's not set in stone, but I think he's thinking about moving it to April so that they can maybe hopefully get a little bit warmer weather.
Well, March is tough in Missouri. It could just as easily been 80 degrees this weekend as it could have been 30 and snowing.
Yeah.
It can be anywhere.
March is still tough, like further south. It's it could still be iffy.
Yeah, it rained Monday through Thursday in Kansas City.
Yeah.
All right, what else, boys?
We are still working on finding business partners, sponsors for the show. So if you know somebody, or if you want to advertise with the show, you can send us an email, thehitfactorpodcast@gmail.com. Please go follow our Facebook, Instagram, and if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe. Appreciate you. That's all I got.
Yeah, that all sounds good. We're looking at producing more content in the future, outside of just the podcast stuff that we're doing. So hopefully we're going to be working towards that goal. So we'll be looking for some of that stuff.
Absolutely. Peace.
Oh, stop recording, damn it.